People traveled from miles to seek the counsel of King Solomon. The ancient king was considered the ultimate arbiter of justice, a man whose clarity and intellect could settle any dispute brought before him. Yet, the man who built an empire on giving good advice made a complete mess of his own life. He hoarded wealth, alienated his allies, and made remarkably short-sighted decisions that ultimately drove his kingdom into collapse. You've experienced this yourself. A friend calls in a crisis. The solution seems obvious. You map out a step-by-step plan, but the moment you face the exact same problem in your own life, your mind goes completely blank. 3,000 years ago, an ancient king failed to apply his legendary intellect to his own affairs. Today, you stare at your ceiling at 3 a.m., paralyzed by a career choice you could solve for your best friend in 5 minutes, because ultimately, human wisdom is entirely situational. Psychologists actually have a name for this specific cognitive blind spot. They call it Solomon's paradox. In 2014, researchers Grossman and Cross tested this anecdote. They found a clear pattern. Individuals displayed much wiser reasoning when reflecting on other people's problems compared with their own. When dealing with a friend's issue, the brain operates in a logic-driven third-person mode, easily weighing evidence and searching for compromises. In first-person mode, that logic circuit shorts out. When the conflict is yours, the situation becomes flooded with integral emotions. Your proximity to the threat actively suppresses your ability to see the bigger picture. This mental block is a mechanical failure of the brain's circuitry, a shutdown of logic triggered by being entirely too close to the blast zone. The engine driving this failure is cognitive immersion. It happens when the experiencing self and analyzing self occupy the exact same mental space. The brain registers this as an ego threat. The emotional temperature skyrockets, pushing you into a reactive, defensive posture. This ego threat triggers a loss of intellectual humility. You stop looking for alternative viewpoints, and the idea of finding a compromise feels like surrender. You begin to treat your own problems as uniquely complex puzzles that no one else could possibly understand. Meanwhile, looking at a friend going through the exact same thing, you see a simple objective equation. Proximity creates a defensive shield. It protects your ego in the short term, but it actively blocks your brain's capacity to access its own best judgment. This ego defense system is highly sensitive to how you view your own identity, particularly in Western cultures that emphasize the independent self. This line graph shows highly independent individuals experience the paradox much more severely. Notice the sharp divergence on the left. The moment a conflict becomes their own, their reasoning scores plummet. The more isolated your identity, the harder your ego fights to protect it. If you know someone currently trapped, share this video with them and hit subscribe to learn more. The data is clear. An isolated sense of identity leaves your reasoning more vulnerable to the blindness of cognitive immersion. Bypassing this cognitive blind spot requires a practice known as self-distancing. The most effective method is third-person self-talk. The next time you face a crisis, you must remove the word I from your internal monologue and replace it with your own name. High performers like LeBron James use this technique to strip away emotional bias during high-stakes career moves. James famously discussed his major team transitions in the third person, speaking about what was best for LeBron James. This shift changes the fundamental question. Instead of asking, "What should I do?" self-distancing forces you to ask, "What would I tell my best friend to do?" This technique doesn't teach you new wisdom. It builds a psychological bridge to access the objective knowledge you already possess. These simple linguistic shifts force the brain out of the emotional hot zone and into a rational cold state. It splits your perspective, allowing you to step back as a detached observer. By neutralizing the asymmetry between yourself and others, you trick the ego into letting its guard down. You become your own advisor. True wisdom requires the ability to retrieve objective knowledge specifically when you are under immense personal pressure. Type WISE in the comments below if you're ready to try third-person self-talk, and hit subscribe for more evidence-based mental models. By deliberately stepping outside of yourself, you instantly become your own most reliable counsel.